Chat. We are going to start with our speed round right out of the bat. Our topic is hacking self-defending data. Elliot and Steve are, as quickly as they can, come up with as many issues around hacking self-defending data. Elliot, you're going to go first. Remember, you each come up with an idea. You cannot repeat what the other person said. Get ready for the countdown. Here we go.
Data needs to be self-defending because humans use data.
Steve.
What if you get it wrong?
Elliot.
This data needs to be self-defending because of unintended data replication.
Steve.
Is it okay to get it wrong?
Elliot.
People need self-defending data because people are losing data every day, and it's out there on its own. It needs to protect itself.
All right, so Steve, I'm having a hard time understanding getting it wrong and is it wrong? Keep going.
How does it help me sell more jeans?
So the data, how to sell more jeans. Keep going, Elliot.
How do you get data to control who is sharing it, how it's being shared, and so forth within the data itself once it's beyond your control?
10 seconds. Steve.
Who owns the definition of the policies?
Elliot.
To the point of policy definition, who's in charge of figuring out data is being misused?
Oh, all right. Andrew, how many did we get?
We've got a 5-4. 5
Elliot?
going to Elliot.
Elliot, you win. Steve. All right, we got to get on the same page here because I don't know if we're talking about the same thing. Hold on. We're talking about self-defending data. Here's the opening music.
Welcome, everybody. The CISO series video chat is ready to begin.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to today's topic is hacking self-defending data, an hour of critical thinking on how and when your data can intelligently protect itself, which is essentially a solution that Kiavi Data, our sponsor, essentially has. And we'll get into that in just a second. Our guests today are Steve Zalewski, the CISO of Levi Strauss. Now, here's the key thing. Today is Steve's very last day working at Levi Strauss, and he is blessing us by joining us here today with that. Elliot Lewis is also with us, CEO of Kiavi Data. He's been with us many times before, so thank you again. And thank you to Kiavi Data, which is also, I believe, just goes by Kiavi now. You don't even need the data portion.
We are going to be doing that, yeah.
Like, imagine that logo without the word data in it. And that's what they are. Right, Elliot?
Absolutely. Yep, we're going to be switching up our corporate name to just Kiavi because it's far more than just data now. So.
There you go. Well, we'll get into that later. All right. Yep. For those of you who haven't joined us before, very quickly, these are the 6 different ways you can participate. Chat room, submit your bad ideas. Do that now for hacking self-defending data. Submit your best strategies. We'll do that at 20 minutes past the hour, but you can do that at any time. Just make sure you write bad idea or best strategies just beforehand. Anytime you can join us on video, just type in "bring me on" all in caps. Will help us be able to see your post and bring you on for a question or a comment at any time. And you can ask the questions just by putting the questions in here or vote for your favorite question. Please have those questions ready for us. All right, today's schedule, play the speed round. We just did that. Your bad ideas and questions, get those in up until 20 minutes. At 20 minutes past the hour, we'll get the poll live and vote for your favorite bad idea. But we'll also ask you, what's your best strategy? Now, again, you could do that now, but I'll really push for it at 20 minutes past the hour. And at 30 minutes past the hour, we will play the Department of Yes, which means I'll pick 2 of the bad ideas that you guys voted up, and you will, Elliot and Steve will explain why they want to deploy your incredibly bad idea. And they can't be facetious about it. They have to actually find a legitimate reason. Continue to vote for your favorite questions. And the 2 people that I choose to be the best bad ideas or the bad ideas that will go into the Department of Yes, you will come on camera at around 40 minutes past the hour. Hopefully you'll be able to come on camera. And you'll defend why your bad idea truly is the best bad idea. That's what we want to know. And then last questions, and then we'll final advice. And then at our meetup at the end of the hour, that's when we do our cybersecurity speed dating. And if you've never done that before, it's a ton of fun. You just get randomly matched up with another cybersecurity professional for a quick 5-minute meeting. A ton of fun. All right. Next chat will be on next Friday, June 25th. Hacking IoT vulnerability remediation, an hour of critical thinking of what to do when you find vulnerable devices on your network. And let me actually get out of this. Whoops. Get out of this. And you can register for that at any time. Here, let me turn that off. That's behind me. We don't need that on anymore. All right. There we go. You can register for that by clicking the button at the bottom of the screen at any time. And you can register for next week's video chat. Now, let me point something out that I did from last week, and it worked out really, really well. If you register before next Tuesday at 5 p.m. Pacific, you'll automatically be entered into a raffle where one winner will win an awesome CISO Series fleece. Now, not only that, you know that you can also win a fleece if you have the best bad idea, which I choose over the weekend because a lot of these bad ideas, look, tons of them are coming in right now. A lot of these coming in right now. Repeat winners, by the way, get a $25 Amazon gift card. But as an extra bonus to incentivize you even more, Steve Zalewski has offered up to send some Levi Strauss swag to the best bad idea. That is chosen over the weekend as well. So you'll get the fleece and you'll get the Levi Strauss swag. And please let us know if you're wearing any Levi stuff right now, because Steve would like to know, because
you're not going to win if you're not wearing swag right now. Okay?
So
no jeans, no winning. So this I want to know.
And I'm going to up the ante because we're also going to throw in a Kiavi drinking mug with that too. So,
all right, look at that.
All right, this is all on, people.
Oh, that's it. Game on. All right,
I'm a whole mess of stuff coming in for you. So let's get those bad ideas rolling in. It's all going to come as 3 separate packages. I should mention that. We'll let all.
See, I already knocked them out. That's what happens.
Anyways, what happened to Steve? We were having problems with Steve earlier. All right,
I don't know.
Elliot, I'm going to start this with you. Just set up the premise. The whole thing of this self-defending data is an issue that came up because of someone over at Google had mentioned it, that this is something that is inevitable. It's going to be part of the industry. The industry desperately needs this. I know that your product, Kiavi, is essentially part way there, but what is it that Google was claiming that we need or that we're going to have, and why is this on the roadmap? I think it's really the question.
Sure. So what you're referring to is back at the RSA conference, there was an excellent keynote done by one of the VPs at Google. And his statement that made the headline was, data will be self-defending in the next 10 years. And we should expect to get that kind of technology. The answer to that is Kiavi has already created that platform. That is exactly what we do. That when he called it self-defending data, we actually take it a little bit further. We have the ability to make data self-protecting, self-aware, and intelligent, and self-reporting on its own in the wild in perpetuity. And that means that when someone tries to open up your data, the data itself, it has the ability to say, who are you? Where am I? What device is this? Why did I ever leave David's office? I'm geospecific aware, time embargo aware, identity aware, and it works in perpetuity. If you send me your data, in 2 weeks, you want to take it back, you hit a button on your cell phone, browser, or laptop, and any data you ever sent me, no matter where I stored it, how many copies I made, it's still all following your commands. This is reality today. That's what Kiavi has done. And it's incorporated into everything that you're using on all devices and all OSs. So the Google's VP statement was excellent. The only area I disagree on is it's not in the next 10 years. We have it today. And that's exactly what Kiavi's created.
Excellent.
There's so many applications I'm seeing in the chat, and I love a lot of them because all of them are really, yes, exactly. You all have the right idea.
In terms of the bad ideas. Steve, Steve, can you hear us in the background? I know his camera went off. Can you hear us?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Yes,
we can't
we can
see
hear
you.
Okay, so I'm not sure what's with video. I'm figuring that out. For some reason, the technology is defeating me. I'm blaming my cat.
That's where you should go.
That's
Always
good.
blame the cat.
I don't own a cat, and I blame the cat all the time. So that's a really good strategy.
Oh, here we go. Hold on. Are you coming back on? Unfortunately, you're black, Steve, right now.
Let's keep going, and we're going to make technology work. How's that?
Well, we don't.
This is what we call stealth, people. This is by design.
Mode.
You think you see them, but you really don't.
By the way, I got my first post-COVID real haircut. Believe it or not, look at that. Congratulations to me. I know.
Well
Congratulations
done.
to me. Steve,
tell,
hopefully we
so
can
it
get
must
you
be
back.
really
We would
good.
like to see you before we did that. But Let me ask about, and excuse me, we do have some questions that have come in already, and let me ask this. Hold it. It looks like Steve might be coming back here. All right, we had a big issue with regards to classifying data, and when data is self-defending, like, talk to me about classifying data before and after. Ron W. has this question, says, how do you encourage SMBs to start with identifying classifying data when it's all over the network? Many see it as too much work to get under control. And the answer is yes, and this is why we're kind of talking about self-defending data, because it changes the paradigm at that point as well. And Steve, we'll come right back to you in a second. Go ahead, Elliot, answer that question.
So that's a great question. When you look at all the things we do to try to protect data, and data classification, reclassification, leakage control, all of these things we've been trying to do is all based on one premise, that data can't defend itself. You have to put all these controls in place around it. And I'm not saying we have to get rid of all the controls. They all are part of the intelligence system that data needs to talk to. But when it comes to intelligent data, and this is part of what we've done with the platform, when your data is actually intelligent with Kiavi infused in it, it actually can tell, am I PCI data, am I HIPAA data, am I GLBA data, am I GDPR data, and all these different kinds of capabilities. And when you're able to do that, and the data can classify its own payload, it can then apply its own policy that is based on that classification. It also means that if you send a file out in the world that's completely benign and public, and then someone puts the name David Spark in it and makes it confidential for you, right? The data itself will know, hey, I just became confidential. I'm reclassifying myself right here and now, and I'm going to geofence myself back to the office. So this is something where when we made data intelligent, it's more than just how to protect itself, how to defend itself. It's also how to analyze itself and participate in what you needed to think about. And it's a real paradigm shift about how we've accomplished this kind of model to make intelligent data cyber safe and also business active.
Good point. Cyber safe. Hopefully that's safe. All right. Hopefully you're back and good right now, Steve. Steve, tell me. Let's start with you in this beginning of this self-defending data. Let's make sure you're on the same page with us on the same concept here. Do you? Because I was concerned at our opening.
I told you.
Sabrina was awesome.
Tell me where you're coming from and how you see it relating to what we're discussing right here.
Yes, and so for the audience, when we were starting up today, we were having our questions and we were starting to talk. I said, I'm going to take it in a different way, and David just looked at me and he's like, "Okay." And then David was like flummoxed, going, "Are we on the same page?" And then so to be fair, I'm having some fun, and same thing with Elliot. Here is why my questions were all business-based, not technology-based. What I did was I said, Elliot has some great technology, because what he's talking about, right, is self-protecting, self-aware, self-defending. It's giving the data an opportunity to have real-time context to decide what to do. Okay. Now, I then challenged, right, because I said, how does this sell more jeans? Right? What is the business problem that is evolving here that's making this technology either viable or mandatory? Mm-hmm. Okay. And that's where I was coming from, right? Because another question I was going to ask is it legal? Okay. The fact that we can do this, right? Or is it a legal or an IT person that's going to set the policy? And here's one.
These are good questions. All right. I'm with you here.
Yeah.
Now,
that's a great question.
Great question. So what I'm really driving at is people can look at your technology and go, it's a great solution, looking for a problem. Okay. Mm-hmm. And what I tried to do with people was to say, well, then let's talk about the true problems that are out there that this technology is mandatory to solve. And I'll say it this way, which is more and more, the problem that we're up against is not taking business data and deciding what the classification is and who can see my business data. Mm-hmm. More and more, it's about my consumer data. Mm-hmm. And the social contract I have with my consumers to protect that data. And if I violate that social contract, they won't buy from me. Okay. Well, more and more of that data now has to move between any two endpoints, none of which are inside of my perimeter anymore. It's all third party and fourth party data. Okay. Right. And it's in different countries. And every country now has rules as to whether you can see that data or not. Okay. And do I tokenize it or anonymize it? And so what you're really solving for me is the contextualization. So the determination of whether I can see it or not is at the point of use, not at the point of creation.
Yes, absolutely. Great analysis, Steve. When you think about, so let me comment on some of the things you just brought up. The business context you brought up. For instance, one of the key points here is that once data is outside your control, once you can't see it, there's no ability for you to influence it, to work with it, to control what happens to it. But when you are able to infuse this intelligence into data itself, and more importantly, there's another facet here too. Can everybody hear me okay? Because my headphones seem to have gone out.
No, okay, we hear you fine.
Okay, good. So one of the things that one of the other features is because we made data this intelligent that it can say, where am I supposed to be? What am I allowed to talk to? What system am I allowed to be on? If I am in these conditions, what is this person allowed to do under their rights, controls, conditions based on what the data is seeing? But more importantly, it can change those policies based on those conditions. It can say, wait a minute, I'm in Germany. I have to follow German policy that's plumbed into me. Or it can say, I am in China. I don't want to be in China. I'm not allowed to be in China, so therefore I'm going to self-delete. It can say, I'm in the U.S. at the corporate offices, and I know I'm on the physical address of the corporate office, and this person's authorized, so I'm going to allow them to see me. But tomorrow, they're at their house, so now they're only allowed to see me under these conditions on this device. It also allows the data to take a much more richer capability because it's that intelligent, because the data is going to tell its owner, here's what's happening to me right now. Here's who has me, what device, what network, what geography, and it does it in near real time. The second somebody touches the data, it's telling you all of this. And this is another industry first, because before it had to be munged together from all third-party systems, logs, controls. Where did the data go? What happened to it? What's doing it? Every time someone's touching data, it's telling you. So the data is not only able to defend itself, it's able to record itself. Yeah.
You bring up a good point, because without it, most of us have essentially dumb data. And when your data is dumb, isn't self-aware, the level that you can abuse it is infinite, pretty much. Its abuse is off the chart. Now, I wanted to throw something, Andrew, completely out of left field, but I love this, and I think it's a creative discussion here. Andrew Aiken has a question that's right out of Isaac Asimov's iRobot. What if your data becomes self-aware and recognizes its importance, sells itself to the highest bidder? Could that be in our future?
So that's a great question. And some of the parameters that we did here, and this is a key parameter to how we designed this tech, data is not self-executing. If it did, it could be malware. It could be a weaponized. It could do what you're talking about, actually. We actually thought about that. We can't let this be self-executing, self-aware AI, driven. One of the parameters I wrote on the whiteboard to my dev staff when we started doing the original designs, do not create Skynet. That is the last thing anybody needs, right? Now, as cool as it would be, we're not going to do Skynet. So it's a basic parameter around the design. Don't let data get out of control. It always has to be in your control, but it's always going to be able to do what you want it to do, no matter what its context now.
So I'm going to push back on that. No.
Yeah, go ahead.
Data is not going to be in our control anymore. That's the point. Third party and fourth party integrations with cloud and SaaS are outside of my purview, yet I have to trust you with my data and yet verify that you don't compromise the social contract I have, right? And
Steve, I'm going to disagree. That's actually not true, because the core piece to this is I can send you my data. It could be on your systems, and you could be using it the way I have allowed you to use it, but it's always telling me what you're doing. And if you don't do something right, I can change its policies on the fly and take it away from you. I can shut it down. If you put it over in the London data center where I said it's only allowed in the Connecticut data center, I can say, I'm sorry, I may not have specified this, but I'm going to specify it now. And all the data I ever sent you and you changed or copied or modified, it will follow my commands and it will say, sorry, I'm in Connecticut only now, and take itself away. Third party and fourth party control is not an issue because this is at the data level. It doesn't matter where it went. It's still going to follow your control. It's at the data level, not network, not platform, not possession.
Right. My point being, from a business perspective, I have to trust but verify. And what you're implementing for me is the trust but verify technology, so that when I have to move the data outside of my protected perimeters, I am still able to manage the risk to the company. And that is what is so foundational about the value of this capability.
Let me also throw this issue out. And this has elements. Oh, by the way, everyone, the poll is up. Vote for the poll. Vote for the best bad ideas now. Vote for the bad ideas. And if you haven't clicked on the link to register for next week, remember, if you register early, you're entered to win a fleece, a CISO Series fleece by Tuesday. So why not just register now? Again, it won't take you out of this video chat. It'll open up a new window. But this has elements of the UK or essentially coming out, it's severing ties with the European Union, about being off the euro, because I realize, listen, because what happens, the trickle down effect. Steve brings up a really good issue. So you have created this power, Elliot, where I can turn off the use of data, okay? And Steve mentions I have all these third party relationships. What happens when I turn off the use of data and I've got these and I don't understand what all my third-party relationships, what level of cluster, what have I just created? And again, I think about the severing of the euro. This becomes now a new, because you've got this new power that could create a new issue.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. And this is why we wanted to have this session with you, David, and this crowd. And this is why we're going to have follow-up sessions that we're going to do with people who want to help us with this. Because now the data can do this. And Steve, you brought it up earlier. Now the question is, what is data policy? Before, people thought data policy is just a retention policy and maybe a classification policy. But now data policy is redefined. You can actually give data instruction about what you should or should not do in any instance in perpetuity. And that is going to be what's going to define what data does. Now, you can make this as simple as don't leave the offices and only with authorized users in the company. Or you can make this as complex as I was describing with multi-phasic policies. And the future of cybersecurity, the way we see it and the way our analysts see it and the way the people reviewing this technology are seeing it, is you are now able to incorporate all of that policy, control, thought, and intelligence into what you want data to do. And how do you design data policy? To your point, David, you could say, well, this can be, you're allowed to be using it, this third party and everything else, and it authorized access to it. And you didn't specify a forwarding policy, but all of a sudden that person shares all that data to a third or a fourth party and everything else. And the data reports back, hey, now I'm in France, now I'm in Spain, now I'm in the South America. And you as the owner can say, no, self-delete yourself. Did you cause damage to those people who thought they had the data? Yes. Should they have had the data in the first place? Not according to you and not according to your agreement. But you have to make sure you're following your agreements.
So if I'm understanding correctly, per your solution, say, and what Steve came up with, and I'm eager to hear from you, Steve, is that I say I have this issue, like there's this data set that I no longer want to be out. I want to be out there, or I'm severing a relationship with the vendor. If I choose to turn it off, will there be sort of a map, like, just so you know, you're going to turn this off, you're going to make this unavailable, this is where it's being used, kind of a thing, so know what you're, like the trickle down effect of what you're about to do. Elliot.
Yes, so that is so we have had a lot of good customer feedback around that point, David. One of the things that we can also do. And this is not in the product today. We're at 1.0. We're doing 1.2, 1.5.
No, I know this is early on,
but that being
obviously
said, this has come up. This has actually come up because the data is able to supply all of this information throughout its life cycle and all of its children data, right? Mm-hmm. So you have data that says it's David Spark.doc. And then someone does David Spark V1.doc and then 1.2. That's all children data. We can track all that, go up and down. We can also do full supply chain. We can do it at an entity data set level. We can do supply chain level, device level. But the trick here is you're talking about data visualization. And we've had a lot of requests around data visualization. It's not a feature today. And what we're trying to decide to do is build by partner on this thing, because while we provide all of this capability and brawn and defense and intelligence, data visualization, we're thinking about, do we do that as a partner play? Do we do that as an ecosystem play? Or do we run a visualization engine? Yeah, Kiavi is well aware we can supply that framework. How we visualize that has been a big request. We're thinking about how to do that in another rev in the future.
All right, Steve.
So I'm going to go back to the first two questions when we did our lightning round. What if you get it wrong? And is it okay to get it wrong? Because what you're talking about is securing the data. I want to make sure that I have strong controls over when, where, and why I expose the data. And I reserve the right to prevent it. And if it did happen, to know who it is. But what happens when it's the other way around, where I'm not trying to secure the data, I'm trying to protect the brand. I need that data to be exchanged, okay, because I got to sell more jeans. The business wants it exchanged, so my goal is to protect the brand, not secure the absolute exchange of the data.
Excellent question. Excellent question, Steve. So this is what I meant at the beginning of the thing when I said it's more than just data protection. This is intelligent data, and it's able to do self-protection, self-awareness, and intelligence, right? That's our first wave out of the box is cybersecurity feature sets. You're hitting it right on the head, Steve. Sometimes it's not about making sure the data doesn't do things. Sometimes it's just about, I just want to see where it's going and how it's being used, right? So in our new next versions that we're coming out, where we're doing a new policy engine, an integrated policy and multi-nested engine, because there's lots of things you could think about. That policy engine is going to be now enhanced from the first version that has policy conflict resolution, resultant set of policy control, and we're also, and we'd love to get customer feedback about this, because this is where we're grabbing specs now and getting customer feedback. I've had plenty of questions around, can you do a transparency mode? Don't try to protect the data, but I'd love to hear everything happening to it. I'd love to see who's using it, where it's being used, how it's being used, how pervasive is this? If it's a video, who's grabbing it, reposting it, so on and so forth. How can the data tell me all this? Yes, it can. Does it have to have teeth applied? That's entirely up to the owner about how much teeth you want to apply. So we're looking at and getting feedback on, should we do a transparency mode? Right now, version 1, we're solving the biggest problem in data today: data loss, data control, data visibility. That's happening today. These new features, we'd love to get some feedback on those. And also keep in mind this too. There's one other thing I want to say about this. Kiavi is an API platform. We give the ability for people to make data think. What you want to think about, we are more than capable of having software developer communities write all kinds of applications based on this kind of intelligence functionality. So if someone wants to go and take the ball and write a whole product or application that does pure, data visibility and transparency, that's another excellent way to go. We encourage that. We're the engine, right? More than happy to make it powered by Kiavi.
All right.
But don't be a solution looking for a problem, right?
Oh, absolutely not. Yeah.
And that's why you continue to show how your core technology can solve other sets of problems for me. I want you to solve my problem, not give me the opportunity to solve my problem, right? And so I'm pushing a little bit, and I keep coming back to those questions.
The opportunity, because this seems like a very this seems like a very opportune thing what you're doing, Elliot. And Steve brings up a very good point here. and I think it's good. And I think maybe, and correct me if I'm wrong, maybe your tool needs more sort of understanding and policies around it so people can use it better. Because I know one of the things that you're looking for from your audience is how are you using our technology? Because you haven't even explored the capabilities of it.
So I'm gonna push back again, because I say we do solve a massive problem. Right now, a huge amount of time, effort, and energy is trying to contain, control, provide access controls, keep data from being lost, figuring out how people are sharing data, providing all these things. We still use identity control, and we work with all these different controls and systems. We are part of the solution. But the problem is data is constantly being lost. People are losing it. People are sharing it inadvertently, on purpose, maliciously. They're losing this because of just replication, control. They don't have visibility. Those are massive problems we're solving right out of the box. Now, all the business issues come with that. For instance, if you have I'll give you one good example, 2 Levi's right now. Your pricing list, your IP, your plans on your new sets of jeans and clothes, your designs are all your intellectual property. And right now you're putting all these controls in place to try to contain that data and try to contain who accesses it and gets visibility to it, because there's a chance that even an authorized internal user can take those plans and sell them and copy them to some third party. And there's a whole cottage industry around stealing of IP, of clothing design, sports design, device design, anything you want to look at it. Now, let's say, for instance, you make all that data intelligent, and it will never leave the Levi's offices. And if anybody attempts to make it leave the Levi's offices, it's not only not going to allow it, but it's going to tell your team, hey, this Joe over here just tried to replicate the data and it didn't happen. Or let's say the data winds up somehow on a USB stick in the wrong place in a competitor's offices. Not only will you know that it happened, you will have the forensic possession, custody, and control proof that it did. So we are solving massive, pervasive core problems today. And how you apply them to your core business is absolutely how you should design your policies to really enhance, to solve what you're solving problems for. Imagine if you could take all of those cycles, all of that work, all of that money, all of that framework, because the data is going to do the heavy lifting for you now and all the visibility for you now, and solve those business problems for you so you can concentrate all of your effort now on actually making product growth and revenue, rather than to try to protect data that can't protect itself. That's a massive business solution. It's the most pervasive business solution in cyber today. Cybersecurity is based, the $5 trillion market has been based on one premise alone. Data cannot protect itself. Everything's been based on that statement for the last 25 to 30 years. Data cannot protect itself. That's why we have to do all this. We just changed that. We seismically changed that landscape.
Steve, I want you to quickly answer, and then we're going to go to our game. Steve, answer. Excellent. Elliot, go.
So what I'm going to push you on, Elliot, is yes, yesterday's problem, that's what you're solving. Tomorrow's problem is not that I have to protect that data, right, and secure it. I've got to get it out there. To sell jeans, I have to make that data available, and I have to. That's why I said is, what happens if I get it right, and is it okay if I get it wrong? Because the ability to sell more jeans is I have to accept a certain amount of risk and get that data out there, because the way that the business and digital transformation and retail is pushing, it's all about moving that data into areas that I don't know about and only the business does. So this is where I'm simply saying the future is changing the mindset from securing and, trusting that it's there to simply giving me some verification. And I really do have to let go of the data and let it fly.
All right.
And I agree. And that's what this enables it. I want to make one response here. You made a statement that I don't agree with. It's not yesterday's problem. This is not yesterday's problem, Steve. This is very much today's pervasive, continuing onslaught of a problem. This is not yesterday's problem. It's not tomorrow's problem. It has been a problem for the whole time, and it continues to be the headline every single day.
All right, here, I'm going to be the arbiter here. I agree with you, Elliot. I also agree with you, Steve. I think what you have, Elliot, is, and what you have mentioned, Steve, is you, Elliot, have some serious power with what you've got with your product. And Steve brings up the thing, if I choose something using your product, how much is that going to cause a problem, rift, whatever? Like,
sure, that's like, fair.
It's so that is the issue, and we deal with this all the time. Like with AI, someone has to tune the AI. There at one point, AI, there's a human involved in terms of programming, developing, or whatnot. The same idea. If I make a decision with your product, what is the problem I've just created? So I see it as you've got amazing power that if he's used wrong can cause some serious damage.
There is a whole thing that we've created here that hasn't existed before. And Steve, you're right. That's a very fair point. What's the issue now? People need to get very skilled in complex data policy. If you don't keep data policy simple, and you can make it as complex as you like, you need to now be as skilled in the ability to actually do data policy. And what do you want data to think about, and be able to work it through those use cases and threat models and tabletops. You have the engine now to make data think. What you want to think about and what do you want to do is a skill set that needs to be developed. I see it very much like when everything was on hardware with switches and routers and everything, and you had your own data centers, and then somebody did something called AWS, and now your standard network engineer who used to have to be completely versed in Cisco iOS and router iOS and everything else now has to be a JSON expert. There's going to be a seismic shift here, right? Data can now protect itself. You have to tell it what to think about. And we're going to give all the kinds of policies and controls you need, but at the same time, you have to design that policy, and that's what's key.
All right. With that said, we got a call that just came in.
Hello, welcome to the Department of Yes, where no request is ever rejected.
See, all right. So we got by the way, this is a good debate, but we've never had a debate this intense on this video chat before. So I have to thank you, Steve, for bringing it. And I got to thank you, Elliot, for defending hard. This has been good. So I hope everyone's appreciating it. We're going to go to the bad ideas. This first one is right up your alley, Elliot. I don't think you're going to have any problem saying Department of Yes to this one. Here we go.
Okay.
And by the way, speak up if this is you, because we want you to come on. Actually, really, I'm going to ask you to come on right away when we're done with this to defend your bad idea of why it is the best bad idea. That's the key thing here. All right, here we go. Elliot. Since the data is self-defending, we can get rid of all other tools and save a ton of money. So the idea being, we just buy your product and we dump everything else. Why is this a great idea, Elliot? Which I got to imagine you like it.
No, I don't think it's a great idea at all.
Well,
actually,
you like the idea of buying your product.
No, listen, it's a great idea because now that you have data that you can put a basic policy on, you can make that policy, don't leave my office, and if you do, self-delete. Your problem solved, data loss is eradicated, everything else is obsolete, and now the thing that Steve brought up is absolutely true.
All right, so Elliot,
but I don't think it's a great idea.
So Elliot, you're gonna get two responses for this one. You're gonna get a yes! Because nothing's gonna happen. Why is this a good idea, Steve?
Repeat the question.
Okay, the question is, or it's the statement. Since the data is self-defending, we can get rid of all other tools and save a ton of money.
This is an awesome idea because maybe for once I'll actually be able to have a security budget that isn't 3 times less than what I need.
All right, hold on, wait. There's a few others here I like. This one I like a lot. Here we go. I'm throwing this one to you, back again to you, Steve. Give the data a personality that determines if it likes the end user based on their browser history. Why is this a great idea?
This would be an awesome idea because for once I can tell the marketing people, you tell me who you want to be good with as a customer, and I can make sure that they get special dispensation.
All right, Elliot. By the way, back off your mic. You're kind of
sorry.
You're peaking there on your audio. Go ahead, Elliot. Why is this a great idea?
Say one more time. One more time for me. Say one more time.
This is a good one. I'm sorry. Who gave us that one? Craig, that was Craig's Herder's one. That was excellent, Craig. Okay, give the data a personality that determines if it likes the end user based on their browser history. So the data is saying whether or not it likes you, Elliot. Not whether you like the data. The data says
based on my browser history.
It looks at your browser history, and it makes it says, okay, this person is this. I don't want this person to like me because they're obviously Republican or Democrat or whatever because of their browser history.
I see this as a great idea because it's kind of like when people say when you have a pet, you start looking like the pet. Your data starts acting like you, and it's all personality based. And it's going to fit your lifestyle. It's going to fit the kind of things you need to do.
But the data is making the choice about
much
you.
As the problem you are. What's that?
The data is making the choice about you. You're not making the choice about the data.
Oh, I know. And then that's even better. So if you're a nice, accepting person who likes to work with people, your data is going to be great. And if you're a person that just doesn't get along with anybody and everything else, it's going to take that as your browser history and say, you know what? I'm going to formulate my personality based on what this guy's looking at. And it's really going to be truly your data. I think it's a great idea. It's a data personality mapping.
Good. That was a good one. So Craig Herder, who was the first person? I don't know. I didn't see who the first person was the first bad idea that came in, but we'd love to get them on. Larry. All right. Can Larry come on? Can we get both Larry and Craig to come on?
While Larry's coming on, I love this idea because I could tell you that perfection is a fault and I have none. So, I think it's a great idea for data to feel that way too.
By the way, I'm going to throw this other one out here. Embed malware in all data files so it attacks the exfiltrator. So it isn't just turning off. So you could actually embed the malware in there. Elliot, why do you like this idea? Quick.
The scary part is that's actually come up in discussions with certain parties. Can your data do this? It has, and it's been like, boy, how do I answer that question without going over a really dark line?
This is offensive. This is not defense. It's offense.
Yeah, it's like, can you make data do certain things that would be good for its uses and actually adversive to the people who receive it if they shouldn't have? In other words, if your data winds up in the hands of somebody that we know is a malicious ransomware person, what can you do? Well, let them try to open up the data. It's going to broadcast out their physical address to the authorities right now. Enjoy that. So we've had those discussions quite a bit. Yeah. Data can do that.
Brian Colt. All right, Brian, come on for that one too. And can we get Larry on, by the way? Can we get Larry on for the first one? Get Larry on and get Brian Colt on. As Brian comes in, and Craig is here. Hang tight, Craig. Steve, why do you like the idea of the data becoming offensive? And not that we're disgusted by it, but the data could attack us.
I think it's an awesome idea because I think we already do it. Isn't that what commercials and infomercials and everything else that we get hit with every time we do it? We're already there. Okay, so I would say that's an idea whose time has already
take
come.
Your computer down. The infomercials are not taking my computer down. Anyways, all right, hold it. Whoops. Excellent job, guys. All right, Craig, you had the one about the data that determines whether it likes us or not. Again, you have to argue why yours is such a great bad idea. Explain, Craig.
Well, just based on our browsing history, we can tell everything that someone has done in the last N number of days, hours, weeks. Yeah. So our data can determine if you're a friend or foe. And it can really quickly determine, have you been browsing to malicious hacking sites? Have you been browsing to malicious code sites? Have you been downloading a lot of competitor type information? So it can determine if you're a data warehouse. It can really help sell that component of whether you are friend or foe.
It's a good and bad idea altogether. I like it. All right, that's a good argument. Larry, okay, please tell me. By the way, Brian, Brian can't come on, unfortunately. All right, it'll just be Larry. Larry, you had the first bad idea where it was just like, do the self-defending data and dump everything else. Why is yours the best bad idea?
Well, I like Craig's idea better, but I think we've got DLP, we've got logging, we've got all these other tools in place, and if the data knows what it wants to do and how it can protect itself, we don't need any of those things. Like Steve said, we can save a ton of money and we can spend the money in other places, that the board may think is more important.
All right. I will throw this to you, and I will even throw in Brian Colt's one, who wasn't able to come on and defend himself or argue why his. Elliot, Steve, tell me which bad ideas, is it Craig's or Larry's, do you think is the best bad idea here?
I think the best bad idea, well,
or Brian's,
first of all, Craig,
Brian's too as well.
I think that the idea that the data can actually attack you because it doesn't like you is really scary, because I'm afraid of what my browsing history might expose.
So that's Brian's idea.
That's Brian's idea. But I will say, we make data smart, but we also need other systems to tell it what to be smart about. In other words, I need the device on it to be verified and strong enough to be able to say, yeah, this is where I am, this is what I'm doing. It's gathering its intel from the area around it. Now, you're absolutely right. Other systems are going to become obsolete. DLP, other pieces like that, this is going to make them obsolete because the data can do it themselves. We completely agree. But it still needs to gather intelligence. So it's not going to be remove everything else, because the data needs to get intel to be able to do smart things. So I think that if I'm going to have to choose the worst bad idea, it's got to be the one where the data becomes autonomous and starts attacking me. That's just scary, because...
All right, Brian wins that. Yeah. All right, Steve, what do you got? Which one's your favorite bad idea?
Oh, I'm giving it to Craig. Mm-hmm. And so, Larry, I like your best bad idea because I can decrease my budget. Mm-hmm. I think that's great. But what I like about Craig is, oh man, I can't wait to just stick it to my marketing team to be able to let them be God and take accountability for what they keep trying to make us do. Oh, I'm just like, I can't wait for that to happen. So that's why, Craig, I have to give it to you.
All right. Kudos to Craig. Kudos to Larry. Kudos to Brian. Kudos to all of you. By the way, ton of great bad ideas. By the way, I didn't say at 20 minutes past the hour, get in your good ideas, but you have been getting them in. By the way, put the poll up of the good ideas, Andrew, as soon as you can. We'll get that up and you'll vote for that. We only have about 14 minutes left. And by the way, for just about 10 more minutes, that link at the bottom to register for next week's video chat will be just up there for a few minutes. So please click on that if you haven't done it already. A lot of you have, so thank you. Click on that. If you register before Tuesday of next week, Tuesday at 5 p.m. Pacific next week, you're automatically entered in a raffle to win one of the CISO series fleeces. All right. We have a lot of questions in, and hopefully people have voted enough. Not enough voting, but a lot of questions here. I'm assuming this guy. Okay, Jeff Baldwin's, I think, really asking a technical question for you, Elliot. How does data self-defend if the data is offline? Does it need a connection back to phone home to get policy engine, or is it the policy engine built into the data itself?
Part of our feature sets, there is an offline mode. If you want to, as the owner of the data, allow an individual to have access to a file or set of files or a set of whatever for a certain amount of time offline, the data is able to do that because all of this is infused into the data itself. It can go offline, and we have a way to do that for people for a time-limited capability. It's basically a security exemption to your policy, but you're able to do that if you want to do offline mode.
Oh, and this, I'm going to throw this one at you too, because I know this is very much up your alley. Matthew Bybee asked this question. He's a CISO himself over at SATCOM Direct. How do we solve, because I remember I interviewing you about this at Black Hat a few years ago. How do we solve the legal discovery, the legal discovery and privacy issues related to self-defending data?
Excellent question. Every time, one of the other features we built into this, all the forensics from the data, both when it gets encrypted, when it gets policied, when it gets accessed, and when it self-reports, it's all designed around possession, custody, and control, forensic logging, and audit control. Every time you change a policy on it and change its parameters, that gets audited and controlled. We designed the entire platform to make sure you're getting full legal forensic chain of evidence control.
Mm-hmm. All right. We have, geez, how many minutes? We got just 10 more minutes left here in the video chat. I have to thank everybody. This has been a great discussion. And Steve, let me ask you, Steve, what is your hanging concern right now in this discussion?
My hanging concern?
Yeah. Because you've brought up a lot of issues here. Elliot is defending heavily here, and you may just end up repeating something that you said earlier, but your concern about the concept of self-defending data in general, I would say. Let's just go back to the beginning.
So the idea of self-defending data is cool, right? So what I like about Elliot when he was doing it was he found an interesting set of marketing terms that elicit for the technology and technologists, right, this really neat idea. And from my perspective, I like the technology. So I appreciated the marketing for what he's doing. But when you look at it for business, right, and you're trying to talk to your grandmother who wants to sell jeans, right, about how this technology is business-based, a lot of that really gets back to, the core of how can I now make every byte of data that I exchange have context so that it's not at the point of creation or the point of encapsulating. It's actually, where is my policy engine that at the point of execution in a real-time environment, I can do the right thing? Because that is what business is pushing us to do. Yeah. And so that's how I would summarize.
Mm-hmm. It's a great way to look at it. And when you look at, where is that policy engine? What's making the decisions on the fly? That's one of the things we thought about, Steve. And that's why we infuse the policies into the data itself, and it goes with that data. Doesn't have to check back, doesn't have to say, am I okay? It knows what you want, and then you can modify that policy anytime in the world in perpetuity. So that was a paradigm shift. We're always trying to say, where does the policy sit? You infused it into your data. That's the paradigm shift.
Right. Now, I'm going to take it a little bit farther here for a moment, right? Because I would say I'm having fun today with everybody, but we're being very serious. These are brutal truths. These are really thinking about visioning what we're doing with technology against business, right? And so that's why when I started today, people were like, okay, this is going to be interesting, and it is. But here's what I want to say as a visionary for the company or for what I do, right? And I'm looking out 36 months. My real job in the future now is going to be API to API integration, business app to business app integration, to move that business data where no people are involved. So it's not user to business app or user to spreadsheet. Okay. Absolutely. It's business app to business app at the API level where I need real-time snap decision on how I can present the data depending upon the apps, the locations, the rules. And so what you're really doing is taking a step in that direction.
Steve, not only are that is exactly how we designed it at its core. This is an API platform for that exact reason. Mm-hmm. When we show people the technology, everything is based on an API platform. And you can infuse this at the application level, the OS level, the API level. We did that by design. I can't agree with you more.
All right. I have a quick question before we go into the wrap up for you, Steve. Elliot's talked about a lot of policies, and I'm sort of amending a question that came in from Phil Wolf. I want to know, because you've been talking about this, and maybe the issue is around policies that you don't have that you would like to have, and again, monitoring the people who are making those policies too, for that matter. Mm-hmm. What is the policies you would like to see around self-defending data that you don't see? And one of the questions that Phil Wolf asked is, how do I know the person who is accessing this data is actually adhering to the policies? Steve, so the question will come back over to you, Elliot, but I want to know from you policies you want to see that you don't have that will sort of address the issues you've been talking about.
Yes. So it's not so much the policy I want to see is what we're about to do on how policies are owned in a company. And let me state it this way. Okay. Today, IT is a steward of business data. Mm-hmm. And we try to protect that data, and we have, classifications and all the rest of that stuff. Okay. So we tell the business, what's the classification? We're the stewards. We own the software to secure that data. In the new world where we're API based, like you're talking about, and the data is now contextualized in any number of ways, and I'll use GDPR and PII data as an example. Okay. Now what's going to happen is I'm going to have to decide if I can share it and in what format. I may allow you to see the raw data. I may have to tokenize it. I may have to anonymize it. I may have to bias it. Okay. Because depending upon the country that is the origin of that data, I can't let it leave the country. German data can't leave Germany. So now I have to anonymize it or tokenize it. Well, now all of a sudden, let's say it's the data science team. The data science team doesn't own the data, but they want to manipulate the data. They're the business. The security team will own the security tool to deploy it and can implement the policies. But who derives the policies? That's now the legal team, because only the legal team can now understand all the laws around the world for us to know what is appropriate to be legal at that point in time for that type of transfer, because it's now flowing all over. And so now the legal teams are going to have to step up and take responsibility for owning the development of policies that the security team can implement, so the data science team is held accountable to managing the data appropriately. Oh my goodness. Okay. We have just blown out the whole process.
Hold anybody else's thought. I got to wrap up here. Hold on. And we'll come back for your answer, Elliot, in just a second. I am going to, whoops, here we go. Next Friday, I want to remind everybody that our topic is hacking IoT vulnerability remediation. That link is right down there. But Andrew, you can change it right now. Again, at any time, you can always go to CISOseries.com and click the register for video chats button. Just make sure you do that before next Tuesday to be eligible. Andrew, change the link at the bottom for our meetup. There it is. Go ahead and click on that link right now. You can, even though this is still running, it'll open up another window. That'll be for our one-on-one meetup that we're going to be doing right after this. And hopefully you're going to get Elliot or Steve and get into an argument with them as well. So that's the hope. But it's a lot of fun. If you've never done it, don't be nervous about doing. Everybody here in the security community is very welcoming, especially to people who have zero experience in the cybersecurity community, because we want to welcome you as best as we possibly can. Tell your friends to join us. We do this every Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. It's a lot of fun. Again, just go to CISOseries.com and click the register for video chats button. Huge thanks again to our sponsor, Kiavi Data and Elliot's company. They have been phenomenal sponsors of the CISO series. We greatly appreciate that. Thank you, as always. And if you want to sponsor a video chat, email me at david@cisoseries.com. We have, I think, one or maybe two left. I haven't done the math. No, hold it. Yes, we have two left in July, if you'd like to get in July. So let me know. All right. With that being said, we have exactly 2 minutes left. Elliot, keep it short. Your wrap up, your last pitch, anything you want to say to the audience?
Yeah, first of all, this is what Steve's bringing up is all excellent points. We had a good discussion. It was a great heated discussion, but I will say this. You're absolutely right. Now that data can think, we have to attune to what data needs to think about. And that's the key point here. What should data policy be? And that is not a simple question. Now that data can think, you have to think about what it needs to think about and what it needs to follow and what you need to get out of it. But that's a key piece to what we had to do here. I want to say this has been a great conversation, David, Steve. We've been doing all this working. What we're doing at Kiavi is working with CISOs to identify and protect all their crown jewels, including PI, consumer info, product roadmaps, financial data, everything else in perpetuity. No matter where it goes, no matter where they send it, data can now protect itself and think about everything you need to think about. We could stop trying to contain data where people access it and how. Let your data do the work for you, do the heavy lifting, and let your data tell you all about it in real time. And I want to invite everybody to, we're going to have 2 sessions coming up. If you go out to kiavidata.com/sessions, I'm going to be doing live demonstrations of the data protection platform that we have here. We'd love to see everybody there. And you're going to see all kinds of concerns and controls around ransomware, around how to control those pieces, around shifting remote workforce locations, protecting critical IP. Please come join us. We'd love to show you the tech.
All right, we literally have only seconds left. Thank you very much. By the way, I've seen the tech. It is cool. Steve, literally, give me 15 seconds closing. What do you got?
Perfect. I started with, how does this sell more jeans? I think we did a great job of answering that question, of looking at the technology from a business standpoint of how it does that. And it was a great debate.
Excellent.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Elliot Lewis, CEO of Kiavi Data, or just Kiavi, I'm sorry, and Steve Zalewski, his very last day at Levi Strauss as the CISO. Thank you both. Everybody, please click the link at the bottom right now. Join us on the meetup. We will do 5 one-on-one meetups in just a half hour. It's a ton of fun. If you've never done it before, if you've done it before, you know how much fun it is, so we'll see you over there. All right, just give me a second. I'll be on over there. Andrew, take us out of this.